Sommahs. Intolerable hot about everywhere these days. Down here in the South, summer's always been a combo platter of heat and humidity, which in tandem are particularly and continuously discomfort us. Now, when it gets to be like Satan's steam bath down out here, some folks pivot from highly proofed tipples down to lower proof libation, the likes of light beer and spritzers, whatever the hell that even is. Me, I put my trust in the refreshing comforts of mint. Mint. Spearmint. Spearmint, to be exact. Mentis spicata. But even in that, there's a lot of variation. Now, I've gone on record many times regarding my adoration of mint chip ice cream, mint-flavored toothpaste. I've even been known to enjoy some mint tea from time to time. When it comes to mitigating this here oppressive meteorological malaise, what I declare to requires an icy cold, downright minty cocktail. Now, although spearmint does have some actual flavor, meaning substances that can be sensed by receptors on the tongue, as well as trigeminal inputs, meaning the cooling sensation produced by menthol. The actual flavor that we think of as mint when we think of mint is mostly retronasal, meaning an aroma that we sense up here in our nose while we're eating or drinking something down here in our mouths. Now, in the case of mint, this magic is made possible by a tight-knit band of molecules called VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. Here's a picture of them performing. We've got limonene, the aroma of citrus, that's on lead guitar. We've got 1,8 cineol, herbaceous, fresh on bass. Beta-pinene, bringing the piney punctuation on percussion. And on lead vocals, our carvone, the very essence of mintiness. Interestingly, our carvone has a twin S carvone, exactly the same structure, but backwards, like a left hand to a right hand. And that molecule delivers the aroma of caraway. The R, by the way, is from rectus, Latin for proper or correct, and the S is from sinister, Latin for left. Sorry, lefties. It's just a shirt. Now, these molecules are chemically volatile because they tend to break off from whatever they're connected to and fly off into the atmosphere. Even at relatively low temperatures. And sure, oh yeah, that's mint. It's just that easy. And we'll get into why here in a minute. Now, those particular lineup, the VOC band, make it especially suited to alcohol, just like a real rock band. In fact, our carvone isn't really water soluble at all, but an alcohol. It spreads around quite readily, a chemical fact that eventually led to the development of several mint-centric cocktails, including but not limited to, the mojito, the South Side, the brandy smash, the gin smash, the whiskey smash, the Queen's Park swizzle, the Old Cuban, the Chin Chin Mule, the fabulously named Missionary's Downfall, and of course, my personal favorite, the mint julep, which I realize isn't technically a cocktail, but a heavily iced and perfumed sling. But let's not get to wrestling in the deep, dreary mud of semantics, lest we soil our seersucker. The mint julep is not my favorite simply because my personal DNA is spelled Appalachia, or because my family crest has cross banjos and a propane tank. No, nor is it because I like sipping from a silver cup, though this particular julep cup, gifted to me by my beloved wife, and she engraved upon it the words of William Faulkner, supposedly, civilization begins with distillation. It's one of my most prized possessions. But the truth is, midsummer, I love me a mint julep because maybe more than any other cocktail, it's got gestalt, baby. And it's got ritual. And gestaltian ritual just makes me all tingly inside. I've got to say that I also like the julep because down here in the South, mint grows wherever you don't pull it, like a freaking weed. You can put it in a window box, coffee can, your gutters, maybe a back pocket, although clearly I'm not taking very good care of this little fella. So there's no reason not to have an ample, fresh supply. That said, if you do have to procure it, either from a market or your friend's yard, there are a couple of methods for preserving its viability. Rinse the leaves or sprigs in cool running water, and then just kind of shake them dry, but not too dry. We want some moisture there. And then lay them out on paper towels and roll so that the sprigs aren't actually touching each other. That's important. Place in a zip-top bag, squeeze as much air out as possible, seal, and refrigerate for up to a week. Now, if you happen to have long stalks, like an actual bunch of mint, simply trim the stems down by about an inch to get a fresh cut, and then place you a bouquet in just, any old vessel. I'm using a quart deli container here. Add about an inch of water, and then top with either a zip-top bag left open or a disposable shower cap, which will slow respiration and drying while preventing interior moisture from squeezing up against the leaves. I don't actually use these because I don't have much, but I do take them from hotel rooms whenever I see them. Enough talk. We talk. A bit more, actually. Sorry. But we gotta talk about bourbon. Now, bourbon was not the original julep base. That was rum, and it wasn't even the second. That was brandy. But it is the standard today, due in part greatly to the association of the bourbon julep with the Kentucky Derby horse race. Personally, I prefer rye in my juleps, but I just don't want to deal with hate mail this week, so I'm going to stick with bourbon. The problem is, bourbon can be tricky, so pull up a chair while I commence to clarificating. Bourbon, like champagne in France or Scotch in Scotland, is protected by a bevy of rules and regulations enforced under federal law by the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax and Trade Bureau. These include location. To be legally labeled and sold as bourbon, said spirit must be distilled and aged entirely within the United States, not Kentucky, as many might believe. The mash bill. Bourbon must be made from fermented mash of at least 51% corn. The rest of the mash bill very often determines the final character of the beverage, though, with wheat bringing softness, rye bringing spiciness, but corn first. Distillation. Bourbon must be distilled at no higher than 160 proof. That's 80% alcohol by volume. Okay. Barreling. Bourbon must enter brand new charred oak barrels and no higher than 125 proof, though the legal definition of bourbon does not expressly set a minimum amount of time in that barrel. Purity. Okay, bourbon must be bottled at 80 proof or higher, at least 40% alcohol by volume, and contain nothing but water, pure water, as an additive. No flavorings, colorings, spirits can be added. So minimally stated, a bottle of bourbon could just, look like this and be bourbon. Next up, we have what's called straight bourbon. Now, to add that word, straight, to the label means that the liquid thus entered must spend a minimum of 2 years in that barrel. Oddly, if the youngest whiskey in that bottle is less than 4 years of age, the label must carry an age statement, although federal law permits that statement to understate the actual age. Lacking an age statement, you can assume that the whiskey inside is at least 4 years old. Most quality bourbons you encounter in American liquor stores today are indeed straight bourbons. Now, if your bottle says bonded, or bottled in bond, then the bourbon inside is rested comfortably in wooden barrels, new charred oak barrels, for a minimum of 4 years. And it has to have been created by one distiller at one distillery during one distilling season. Okay. Lastly, bonded bourbon has to be bottled at exactly 100 proof, 50% alcohol by volume. This means that as far as alcohol goes, all bonded bourbons are exactly precisely the same. Bonded rye whiskeys conform to this too, but that's another show. Now, personally, I considered bottled in bond to be they're kind of like pour over coffees, right? It's the most controlled offering, showing off what a particular maker does. It's very pure, not necessarily the best, but pure. Very sip-worthy, but not necessarily cocktail fodder. For that, I tend to go with straight bourbons. And since Julep has to contend with a good bit of ice melt, I seek one in the 100 to maybe up to 120 proof range. Enough talk! Actually, we're going to have to talk some more about ice, actually. There are two kinds of ice. There's wet ice and dry ice. I don't mean dry like CO2, I mean ice that is dry. Now, if you've got an ice maker, either built-in or countertop, odds are good you're familiar with wet ice.
That's because the machines that make this stuff store it at a temperature just warm enough so that it is always slowly melting. So it's always wet and the cubes never stick together, which is nice. Wet ice is easy to crush due to its higher temperature. Now, ice from an in-freezer ice machine, like most of us have at home, the stuff that cranks out these half moons, this is really, really difficult ice. I'm not home. That's actually what I've got at home. That's me and my ice. It's hard as a frickin' rock, okay? And if you try to crush it straight from the freezer bin, and you could crack your mallet, which you don't want to do. So if you've got to use this kind of ice, dry cubes, you're going to want to put it in a large colander set in a bowl and just let it temper at room temperature for 5 to 10 minutes or until the outside of it is kind of wet. That'll allow the ice to actually soften a little bit. If you're having a party, you might want to just buy yourself a 5-pound bag at the gas station and keep it in a cooler. It'll be more like this, which of course is more like what bartenders use themselves in their bars. Okay, good talk. Oh, I forgot. I actually need this stuff. Now, when it comes to crushing, I'm really picky. Because I want kind of a continuum from really small to incredibly small pieces so they melt at different rates. I really can't get that out of common kitchen appliances like blenders and food processors. They make so much really, really tiny stuff that you end up more with, puddles than piles. That did sound good. Some people still use these hand grinders that are completely manual. They're kind of a beast to operate, and they never really produce any of the pieces that are small enough for my liking. Me, if I'm crushing for just say 2 juleps, where I'm going to need 1 pound of crushed ice for the 2 cups, I use this handy canvas bag. It's commonly referred to as a Lewis bag, which some say, and this is interesting, harken back to the early 20th century when big city bartenders would bash up their ice in the canvas bags that banks used to transfer coins. True? Well, maybe. I just really hope they washed their coin sacks. Because coins, pretty filthy little things. You can also, when you buy these, they usually come with a wooden mallet. And I have found the mallet to be the proper tool for the job. Nice and even. Rolling pins, some people use uneven results. And certainly you don't want to use one of these big Thor-style meat tenderizers, because let me tell you, this thing will tear your sack up in no time. Do not want to use this on your coin sack or your Lewis sack, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, here we go. The ice. My 1 pound, remember, for 2 drinks. And I like this because the Lewis bag's got this little kind of flap, which helps to keep things in. Okay, this is serious business. The other thing that's good for is you can fold it under. So the canvas, by the way, very important because it will soak away excess water, because this is going to definitely have a little bit of melt to it. And then all you have to do is gently. That's not, if you need to do that, do it, but not with good ice. Keep that tucked under. You're gonna have some ice come out, it's okay. Don't hit your hand. Let's have a look, shall we? I would say that's fairly delightful. I know that the smaller pieces are in the bottom, and I do want some bigger pieces. So now we're absolutely ready to make, oh crap, I forgot to talk about something. A julep simply is not a julep without sugar. But regular table sugar, as you well know, dissolves poorly in cold liquids, which is why I always keep extra fine sugar around. Not confectioners, that's different because it contains cornstarch, which I do not want in my drink. No, I'm talking about good old sucrose in near dust form. Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right, now to produce, you just take a cup of sugar for a spin in your favorite food processor. Seems it's time to grind. All right, I'll show you how I really do it. I usually just grind a couple tablespoons at a time in a mortar and pestle. I like this method over electrical devices because I can really keep an eye on the process and make sure the texture is right. I don't want just a dust that's going to fly around the room, not really. It won't take more than a minute of grinding. And you're going to move that to airtight containment, and do include a desiccant pack to ensure that it stays dry and doesn't clump, which sugar loves to do, especially in humidity. Okay, now there is literally nothing to prevent me from finally manufacturing a proper julep. I have my fine sugar, important if you're going to be making these one at a time. I have bourbon. I'm using a 100 proof Kentucky straight bourbon, perfect for this job. I have got ice standing by. I've got 5 mint leaves, nice and fresh, all stacked up to go into the cup there. This doesn't include the garnish. That's important. You're going to want to save a sprig for garnishment at the end. We'll discuss shortly. Of course, I've got my beloved julep cup. I know everybody doesn't have one of these, okay? And frankly, it's okay. It is, especially considering the thermal characteristics of silver, pewter, the traditional materials. Honestly, you're better off thermally just using a heavy rocks glass, okay? Because glass is an insulator. Silver is not. It's a conductor, right? Just go with this if you don't have this. This is the South, so it's simply not done. Besides, half the joy of a julep is when the outside... I'm giving it away too soon. I'm giving it away. Never mind. The last thing I want to mention that I have is a muddler. You may have seen one of these in the past. You have one. You may have seen a bartender use one of these to smash up the leaves in the bottom of a cup for a julep or a mojito or whatever. It's easy to do because the jagged little knurls will tear up some leaves, which is not what we want to do. This is fine for smashing lemon or lime, but we do not want to tear the mint leaves because what we want is not inside the mint leaves. Behold. This may appear to be a green painted piece of cardboard with a bunch of semi-inflated balloons stuck to it, but it is in fact a stunningly accurate scientific model of the microscopic view of a mint leaf exterior. These balloons represent structures called piltate glandular trichomes, tiny external little oil glands that store the mint's volatile organic compounds, the stuff we want. Inside the leaf is chlorophyll and a bunch of other bitter plant stuff that we don't want. So our goal is to pop these without breaching this. Here's how I do it. We're ready to julep, really. I'm not kidding around with this anymore. All right, here is my cup. I'm going to put in the 5 nice juicy leaves right down in the bottom. Now, a lot of recipes will tell you to add sugar and then muddle. Do not do that. All of it the sugar does is act as an abrasive to tear into the leaves. We're not doing that. But remember though, the R. Carvone, lead singer of the VOC band, is very, very alcohol soluble. So I'm just gonna add a splash. I've got 3 ounces total of my 100 proof bourbon here. Yeah, it's a stiff drink. You sip it slow, because if you don't, you're gonna get an ice cream headache anyway. So I'm just gonna pour in, it's maybe a teaspoon. All right, now we do have to express the oil glands. It's like something that we have to do with one of my dog. We have to mash them a little bit. Now, what I'm gonna use looks like a big tool, and it's a rolling pin. The reason I'm using it though is that the diameter of the bottom just about fills the bottom of the cup, and that's good because if I go in there with something small, like even this end of this muddler, it's really gonna punch holes. It's gonna be very aggressive. This is actually gonna be fairly gentle. So here, I'm just gonna place that right down on top of the leaves and just gently push and twist, push and twist, push and twist, push and twist, and walk away. That's it. Well, I mean, don't walk away. Walk away with this. You're gonna look down and you're gonna be like, those leaves don't even look bruised. Leave it alone. It's okay. Now, sugar. You can go the fine sugar with up to a teaspoon, if you like your drinks on the sweet side. I like to taste the liquor, so I'm going with half a teaspoon. Again, this is completely up to you. Don't go more than a teaspoon. That's gonna get nasty. It's not a Slurpee. There we go. Now, 100 proof of bourbon, that's probably not enough actual water in there to dissolve all that. So what we wanna do is add a little bit of the ice and stir until we've got a thoroughly dissolved bunch of sugar. We don't want granules floating around in there. So I'm just going to add enough to come up about halfway. That's all. And stir. This is pewter, not silver. You can do whatever. And just stir and make small talk. Sir, did you bring your julep cup? Excellent, excellent. Madam, your hoop skirt looks... There. Now, time to make a chunky snow cone. Literally what we're doing. This is why I use half a cup per. And I very often do this in kind of a wide basin to catch all the ice that I'm about to spill that I'm not going to be able to now because I didn't bring a basin. Observe. I kind of like the flap for this. I am literally piling that up. Yes, there's going to be ice. It's going to be left over. Look, that's the pile I want. I know I'm wearing a light shirt, so you can't see that. That's what we want. Okay. Now, the rest of the bourbon, slowly. Slowly. If you go fast, it's going to pour over the sides of the bowl, of the cup. So just slowly, take your time. This is not a speedy drink. Nothing about this drink is speedy, including how you're going to drink it. Slowly. There you go. Don't worry, it's going to fit. You'll think it's not, but it is. Delightful. Garnish. In this case is very important because we want to smell the aroma of the mint before the drink gets to our mouth. And so the sprig, the top sprig, a tiny little precious sprig. But in order to open up its flavors, it's gotta be spanked. Well, not its flavors, its aromas. It's gotta be spanked. Bad mint sprig. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Park this off to the side. You do spank your mint, right? I mean, it's a standard thing. Now, I like a straw, and I like a straw that's biodegradable, and I go with these. These straws are made actually out of leftover sugarcane pulp. I don't know how they do it, but I like it. It's biodegradable. It's sugary, so I get it. And so I go the opposite side of the sprig, right, all the way to the bottom, and then I cut. Because let's face it, this looks like a milkshake. I want something a little more genteel. Perfection. And that is a proper julep. But before we drink it, before we experience the perfection that's here, let's just talk about what's going on inside, shall we? Look at this. Remember the whole 4-member mint band, the Vox band? That band is now synchronizing with another band, the Bourbon band. Bourbon is complex stuff, not so much because of the distillate, but because of the time inside those new charred oak barrels, right? That barrel brings its own set of aromatic compounds, including, let's see, we've got vanillin on piano, we've got cis whiskey lactone on upright bass, we've got fruity esters blowing tenor sax, eugenol and phenols on trumpet, E beta damascenone on trombone, delta lactone and something decalactone on baritone sax, 3-methyl butanol on guitar, and good old ethanol on drums. Wow, what a lineup. And they're really jibing, jamming with these together, because believe me, up in the olfactory switchboard that is your brain, they're coming together in a conversation. The spearmint's bright, clean, cool smell carbone is cutting through the vanilla, caramel, toasted oak, and dark fruit of the bourbon. And as the ice slowly melts and you sip, that relationship changes until you're left just sucking memories and mint leaves. Absolutely delicious. Oh, and you see that frost? Let's talk about that frost. You have to remember that back in the day, ice was an agricultural product cut off of ponds and rivers in winter and then stored in ice houses as late as October. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson both had ice houses at home. Jefferson dug what he called an ice well at the White House, so when he was president, he could impress dignitaries with chilled wine and ice cream. The point is, For a lot of the julep's history, ice was a status symbol, as was, of course, owning silver cups. And although, you can't see the ice inside the silver cup, you can see the frost formed on the outside due to the high thermal conductivity of the cup itself. So there you are, strolling with your julep all frosty, huh? And it's like you're proclaiming, ice, ice, baby. I got ice, so I got money. Not to mention a silver cup. So honestly, the julep was the OG stat bev. Today, ice is common, which is kind of a shame because we tend to take it for granted, but not today. Of course, I have to say, sometimes I make juleps en masse, and when I do, I skip the muddling altogether. So finally I can say, enough drinking, we cook! Fetch down a heavy but relatively small saucepan and combine 223 grams of water, that's a cup, with 350 grams of sugar. Put that over medium-low heat, stirring often with just a whisk until the sugar is fully dissolved and bubbles just start to break around the edges. Do not bring it to a boil. All right, kill the heat and just let it sit until it cools to 170 degrees. All right, that's close enough. Then move to the carafe of your blender. Meanwhile, bring several cups of water to a boil. I just like an electric kettle for this. And then dunk a bouquet of about 10 sprigs of spearmint into the water and hold for 15 seconds. I tied them together to make this easier. It does get steamy though. Then immediately transfer to an ice bath. This will help to set the color of the mint and will keep the syrup bright later on down the line. After about a minute in the ice bath, pick off as many of the leaves as you can salvage, and then just give them a good squeeze and add to the blender. Blend on medium-high until those mint pieces are obliterated into tiny, teensy dots. Then strain your syrup through a fine sieve. I run it through usually twice, and if you don't have a fine sieve, you might want to use some cheesecloth. And transfer to a clean squeeze bottle, easily obtained online or at your local restaurant supply store. So now that we have that syrup made, we can make juleps en masse without having to do any crunching, spinning, or any of that kind of thing. Of course, if we're really going to have a full-out julep shindig, I'm going to be making at least 4 at a time, right? And this bag, although useful, it doesn't cut it, and I don't want to have to work in batches. So what I've done is that this is a natural canvas book bag that I picked up at some bookstore. All it has on it on one side, it's got kind of like an iron-on. I don't care about that. The inside, as you can see, is just lily white. It's just pure. It's driven snow. So I cut off handles, because it used to hold handles. And I use this now as my party bag. So I've got twice as much ice as would go in there, 2 pounds in my bag. And since this is a big old sack, I want to make sure that I keep it closed. So what I do is I just use these binder clips. I just put one there and one here, right? And then, well, I go to town. Let's have a look, shall we? I think we've got a little more pounding to do, don't you? That looks good. That's what I want to see. And what I'm going to do is, while I build the drinks, I'm just going to stash this in the freezer for just a moment. Cut. To assemble, gather your 4 matching julep cups or whatever glasses that you want to use, and into each squirt about 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of the syrup, and then follow with about 1 ounce of the bourbon. Add enough ice to come halfway up the cup and then stir to bring that all together into a nice solution. That's going to help the syrup to not just sit on the bottom, because remember, it is more viscous. Then go ahead and pile on the rest of the ice. We want to have full mounds here. And then I usually go ahead and slide the straw in, because if the ice starts to freeze against the glass, or the cup, it's going to be hard to get in there. Then top with bourbon, however much it takes. In this case, it's going to be a total of 4 ounces in each cup. Yes, it is a strong drink. Garnish and serve. My oh my, but that is delicious. Now I know some of you purists out there are saying, syrup, that's cheating. Unclutch your pearls, okay? Because I can tell you right now that for hundreds of years, the word julep or julap or gulap even meant a medicinal syrup originally made with rose water in Persia. And we also know that by 1764 in St. Thomas Hospital in London, they were concocting and prescribing mint julaps medicinally, right? There's the recipe there. Given in large spoonfuls, taken frequently, are of great service in removing nauseas and retchings to vomit. Of course, you drink enough of these and you will be retching and vomiting. Be responsible and sensible, won't you? We also know that in the 1870s, specifically in Virginia, the juleps with a considerable amount of spirits added, rum originally, then brandy, and then bourbon, were being imbibed by country gentlemen as morning eye openers, no less. And of course, by the early 1800s, ice was being added, and the rest is, I'm not about to tell you to suffer such a tipple first thing in the morning, but see you next time on